Hello and welcome to the City of Sydney's Reboot webinar series. My name is Kate Pearden and I'm your host for this special series. Now, before we begin today, I'd like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of the land on which each of us meet. Now, we're going to share knowledge and learning today, but may we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever with the Aboriginal custodianship of country. Now, the Reboot webinar series, it's focused on practical and actionable insights to help businesses thrive across these three key phases of business. And if you've been to one of these before, you should know this very well. We look at running your business, growing your business, and adapting your business. Now, Reboot was originally developed to support local businesses in the aftermath of the 2020 COVID-19 lockdown, and it's now in its fifth iteration. I can see a few people popping in the chat how many sessions they've been to before, and it's lovely to see new faces as well as old ones. So our Reboot in 2025 will be presented in 2 blocks of 5 sessions. We're currently in our first block. And these 1-hour webinars will be over lunch. They feature a guest speaker. You can see our guest speaker already on the screen today, Therese. Welcome. And they will share some of their expert knowledge, case studies, and tips that you can apply immediately to help your business thrive. So we have some special thanks because these series are brought to you by the City of Sydney and they're proudly supported by Service New South Wales Business Connect. Now, Cynthia's going to pop that link in the chat so you can find out more about how Business Connect to provide you with free, independent and tailored business advice, which as a small business owner, which I am too, I absolutely appreciate. All right, let me tell you about what you can expect over this next hour. We have our guest expert, Therese Ravell, who will share a presentation for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And today's presentation will actually have the content and the case studies within. So if you've been before, you will know that we do our content and our case studies, but we're actually going to do them together because it makes more sense that way. As we go, I love to have your Q&A so that you can see a few people are already putting things in the chat box, which is great. And there's also, for most people, it's along the bottom, a Q&A button. So if you have a question that you would love us to answer in our 15 minutes at the end, please pop it in the Q&A box because it can get lost in the chat. So put your questions in the Q&A box and we'll answer those at the end, or as many as we can. And if you've got comments along the way, you can use the chat box for that. Okay, so I think that's all our general introductions. Let me tell you about our wonderful guest speaker today, Therese. Now, Therese Ravell is a forward-thinking HR strategist. She's actually got 30 years, or maybe over 30 years of experience, and helps organizations and businesses build high-performing teams and profitable, thriving workplaces. Now, 15 years ago, Therese founded her own business called Impact HR, and she wanted to do something that I imagine a lot of people might be in a similar situation. How do you create a fulfilling career while raising 2 young children? So she aspired to be both a dedicated mum and a trusted partner to her clients. And that same vision from 15 years ago still drives her today in her business. She's worked with startups, global corporations, and like many of us, her journey hasn't been without challenges. She's got her own personal story about while leading Impact HR and she faced cancer treatment. And also during this time, she had a number of awards, winning 2021 Northern Beaches Business Person of the Year, 2020 Northern Beaches Adult Volunteer of the Year. And under her leadership, Impact HR has won multiple professional service and HR awards, and her team have earned global recognition. So not only does Therese know what she's talking about, but she's got the runs on the board. So today, really make sure that we soak up her knowledge and wisdom and kindness in presenting this webinar. And the information that she's got from working with Impact HR over such a long period. Get those questions in as we go along, and we'd love to answer as many as we can along the way. So a very warm welcome to Therese. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to today's session.
Thank you so much. I have to say these sessions are amazing. I have been following along too, and I really appreciate how much thought and effort has gone into this from the Sydney City Council. I know that the structure has taken a lot of time, and it's designed to make it easier for us as small business owners to get the information at the right time to be able to move forward. So very grateful for the opportunity to be here. And I hope that I can share some wisdom with people as we go.
Wonderful. I'm excited, Therese. And you can see she's already got her slides ready to go. You should see on your screen, Reboot, Run Your Business. And these, I meant to tell you at the beginning, this is going to be recorded, so you can get access to this session again today, but the slides themselves won't be put separately. So you can access them in the recording, but not separate. So if there's something in today's session that you just love and think, yes, this is what I need, take a photo of the slide. All right, thanks, Therese. I'm going to hand over to you. I'm ready for your wisdom.
Lovely, thank you. So, as you guys know, we are talking about right-sizing your business. To help me make sure that the information I'm sharing is as tailored as possible for you and your individual needs, what I would love to understand is, what size is your business? Now we have a poll that Kate is going to share with you. So for those of you who are watching the replay, what I'm asking and hoping to understand is whether you're a soloist, whether you're running a micro business, so that means less than 5 employees. If you're a small business, you've got between 5 and 14 employees. And then if your business is more than 15 employees, congratulations. In the Australian HR law, you are the same size as BHP and CBA and all those other acronyms out there. Well done you for making it to be that size. So if you can just pop into the poll, the quiz, what size are you? That's going to be really helpful to make sure I'm providing you with the best possible information for your business.
Great. And those results are up on the screen now, Therese.
Fabulous. So what I'm seeing is that the biggest group that we have is our soloists. So around about 45% of participants today are soloists. Our micro businesses are about 15%. Our small businesses are about 10%, and our big businesses around about 30%. So that is really great to see that. All right. So let's get into this and make sure that we make the best use of your time as we talk about helping small business and creatives grow, learn, and innovate throughout the Reboot program. I'm going to be taking you through 3 key areas. The first is making sure that we're right-sizing our business and understanding what right-sizing really means. So it's not just about, we often think right-sizing and we think about redundancies or making our team smaller. But I want you to understand right-sizing is also about when you're growing your business, and it's really important that we do that well. And then we're going to talk about your options for hiring, because the more options that you have and the more information you know about how to engage people, the easier it is for you to successfully grow your business. And of course, whether you're growing your business or it's got a contract, there's going to be some conversations that we need to have. Now, I was asked to talk about difficult conversations, but I choose not to do that, because every conversation that we have is really, really important. And I want you to go away with the mindset that every conversation is an opportunity for a great conversation. I'm going to share my top tips for those things. So please keep your questions coming throughout this process. I really love it as people ask questions that I can help you with. And Kate's going to share them with us at the end. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to answer as many as come. All right. So kicking off with right sizing. I want you to know, first of all, that it is really natural to feel uncomfortable. Running a business is never a straight line. There are all sorts of things that go on throughout this process, and we need to make sure that we're getting the right size. I've chosen this image because the box for me sometimes can feel overwhelming, like it's contracting around us and we've got to get smaller. And sometimes the box is actually the constraint that's holding us in, and we have to push past the box. We need to push open and make that box bigger. So we've got the right number of people to service the amazing clients that you're attracting. And so I want everyone to be thinking about, where are they at the moment? Are you sitting in your little business box and it's perfectly sized? And if it is, what did you learn from the two previous sessions when you were thinking about your numbers and you were also thinking about your business strategy, about where you want to grow or what that looks like? Or maybe there's things shifting and you can do more with technology and your team doesn't need to have quite the same number of people to be able to deliver the same results or even bigger results. But it's okay to feel uncomfortable at times. I'm going to take a moment and just start with my very first case study, which is actually a case study about me personally. And this is why I want everyone to know that it's okay to feel uncomfortable. I started my business with one baby who was almost 1 year old. I'd just gotten started. I was super excited. I'd had luck with getting people who'd worked with me without paying me really for a number of years to come on board and actually start to be paid clients. And we were starting to grow. I had one person working with me casually, and that was just the perfect combination. And then I found out I was pregnant. And so as I started to navigate my pregnancy and running a business and a small child, there were lots of times when, I needed to either tap in more to my casual employee or less to my casual employee. And then I had 3 children, 2 human children and 1 business, all under the age of 3. And that's a lot of juggling and a lot of stuff going on. So from that, I had plans in place so that I could grow in a staggered way. And by the time my eldest daughter was about 6, I had a contractor who worked with me whenever my own personal workload expanded too much and I couldn't deliver to the standard that I wanted to. I had her to hand work off to. I had one part-time HR consultant that I was absolutely confident I could constantly keep the work up for her. And once again, I had a casual working alongside me, making sure that all of the administration stuff that I needed done was getting done in a timely manner. So that was my team. And I was excited. And I was getting ready for my second daughter to go off to school. And I was thinking big growth plans. And then I had a cancer diagnosis. And for a little while, I honestly believed that I was going to be able to keep all that going and be absolutely fine. But unfortunately, treatments didn't go quite to plan, and I needed to rethink that. So I needed to downsize again. I made sure that my contractor had some great contacts and she was fine. I made sure my part-time person actually got employed by one of her regular clients. So that was a match made in heaven. And my casual person moved into helping a couple of our clients, but directly for them and had nothing to do with me. And I went from having about 30 clients down to 5. And I just really nurtured those 5 and did my best. And then over time, as I started to get better and heal, I started to grow my business again. I now have a team of 10 people, and we are in an amazing period of growth right now. There's so much happening, and it's really exciting because all those lessons I've learned about right sizing, help me now to take the next steps and do it really well. So, although there may be times in your business where you feel trapped, I just want you to know that that's okay, because using the information we're going to share today is going to feel a lot more comfortable going forward. And I know that there's some of you who probably joined thinking HR is all the fluffy stuff in your business. I just want to bust that myth right now. HR is all about the plan and about the numbers. When I am talking about right-sizing your business, what I'm really talking about is understanding how much workload can each one of your team members carry. So if I want to grow my business from, for example, a $100,000 business, can I do that myself using more technology? Or for each $50,000, do I need to have X extra number of hours that I can then invoice out? So depending on whether you're a retail business, whether you're a service business, whether you're in different industries, those numbers all look a little bit different. But we have to understand the numbers, which is why I'm so privileged to be speaking to you after you've spent time with Jacob and after you spend time thinking about your strategy. So now you've already got those numbers and the vision in your head, and we can start to put it together so that this is going to really work for you. So what I want you to do right now is write down on your piece of paper, what are your numbers? Do you know how much your revenue is? Do you know what profit levels you have? If we're looking at expanding your team and adding somebody to it, we need to make sure that the revenue that comes in and the profit that we're making is not going to be too diminished. Sometimes we know that we've got it's a like bell curve as we go up because we have to train and hire our people. That takes a little while before that revenue really kicks up. But I just want you to be thinking about what those numbers are. When I'm working alongside our clients and we're looking at right sizing, we're often looking at, for example, if they're hiring a salesperson, how many calls can they make in a week or a fortnight or a month? Because we can know how many calls it takes before we're successful. So we talk about the conversion rates. So if you happen to be a marketer and you're here, you probably know your lead generation rates, your conversion rates. We're looking at those figures alongside the business owner to say, okay, for each X number of people or Y number of sales assistants in a retail store, I can sell X amount or I can deliver X. So we're looking at those numbers and we're understanding what is it that I need to do to make sure that that's happening all the time. I'm also working alongside business owners to go, where are the weak points in our systems? If we can improve our systems and how we do things, and we can save 5 or 10 minutes on a process, if you multiply 5 or 10 minutes on a process out, when I do that process 5 times a week, that's a 20-minute saving. Times that by 52 weeks in a year, we're talking about real hours here. So what is it that we can do in our operations that will actually streamline how much time we're spending on a certain process? And how can we really make that work for you? Sometimes it's the small things. And sometimes it's a founder mindset where we're thinking to ourselves, I'm the one who can do it best. I know my clients better than anyone else. I know their needs and it will only take me 2 hours to do this. Rather than teach somebody to do it, I'll just do it myself. But each time you do that, you actually mean that you can't grow any further. So the sooner we get into that operations mindset, how can I write my notes and then hand it over to somebody else to do? How can I video this and hand it over to somebody else to do? How can I take it off my plate? Every time you do that, that is how we're going to right size your business in a growth mindset. Once again, we've talked about sometimes we need to right size our business in the other way. And so if we can streamline our processes, sometimes we can change how many people we need to do the same process. That can mean that that person's time is actually allocated to somewhere else that's even more valuable for your business. Or it might be that in some cases, we no longer need that person in our team. And then we need to talk about redundancies. So those things all have a huge impact. So across all of those things, one of the questions that I ask all the time is, how easy is it to change one of those factors? When I'm talking with business owners, they're talking about leverage points. What is my leverage? Can I teach somebody? Can I automate something? Can I write a script for somebody who's going to sit alongside me so that when they hear me doing it, they're going, that's how she says something or does something that helps somebody understand. And then that way, we've got more people performing at a higher level, and we're either converting more or we're getting better outcomes faster. And those leverage points are what help us to grow and scale. So as you've been thinking about your numbers, and as I've said some of those things, hopefully what you've been doing is jotting down some of the ideas. That's a system that I repeat all the time. That's a process that I do in the evenings while I'm watching TV. Doesn't take me very much time. It's not very challenging. Those are the types of things that we're looking for so that we can move them off your plate, put them on somebody else's, and get the right size team around you to help you to grow. Now I'm going to ask you, when you look at that, what's the plan for your future? Because it's all about your plan and making sure that you're building the facts, those figures that we've just been talking about, into your plan. If you want to grow your business by 5 or 10%, if you want to double your business, what those numbers are, that's where we get into the facts. And we have to take the emotions out of it. As I said when I introduced myself, I had 3 babies, 2 real humans and 1 business baby. The emotions were the same. I love my business. I love what I do for my clients. And I really want to help people. And that's why I do this. But sometimes I need to take a big step back from that and let the facts talk to me. Dig into the facts and understand them. Because without that, we make poor choices based on our emotions. So I want you to be thinking now, as you've written down those numbers on your piece of paper, where's the evidence for them? Do you know those numbers? Do I need to dig a little bit harder? Do I actually need to track something that I haven't been tracking before? Because if we can do those things, that's going to really help you to be successful and to right-size your business. I'm going to take you into one of the case studies now, and hopefully this is something that we can all relate to. I work with a number of different businesses. Some of them are in wholesale retail, so wholesaling to our retailers. And of course, that's an amazing business. We're helping other people all around Australia to be successful in their own businesses, because when we do our job well, our clients, who are the retail businesses scattered all around Australia, are able to have good margins, run successful businesses, and we're providing them with great materials so that their team can sell our products in a really, really effective way. But when we're doing all of that, there's other things that we need to be thinking about as well. What are our systems? How do our systems work and influence success? And in this particular case study, we started off looking at their customer support team. So their customers, as I said, are the retail businesses across Australia. The customer support team used to take phone calls to place orders and used to make outbound phone calls when somebody hadn't ordered for a little while. And then by looking holistically at the business, we actually changed out a piece of software in the background, and we were able to automate orders being placed by our clients. So once we'd spent some time teaching our clients how to actually place the orders online, we then started to notice that there was suddenly this really weird phenomenon of our customer service team. There was more tension there than we'd ever had before. Why was there more tension? Because they weren't as busy. When they were really busy and really engaged and they were constantly had more things to do, what we found was that they didn't have time to worry about the little things and they were just busy, focused on helping people. Suddenly we're in a situation where without the orders coming through and when they're making the phone calls, the people saying, that's okay, no problem. We're going to place that order tonight online. Thanks for sharing, but we'll place the order ourselves. We don't need you to do it. But they had too much capacity in the team. As we dug into what was going on, what we discovered was from that team of 6, we actually only needed 3 full-time people. And as we then started to look at the skill set and what we wanted, we knew that the business needed to make changes. And as heartbreaking as it was, we need to reduce the size down to 3 people. As we started the discussions with the team, we were really honest and open and clear with everyone that this was because we were actually being successful, but we hadn't cracked the new business. So we hadn't brought in new retailers to keep them more busy. And even when we did, We expected that most of the retails, like all of us, were getting really used to doing so much online that we probably would never need the same size customer support team. What we ended up doing was we ended up, with consultation with that team, having 2 full-time people and 2 part-time people. Now, that was really great because 2 people actually volunteered to reduce their hours and stay with the business. One of them needed some extra time to care for elderly parents, and one of them was actually really relieved because they'd been worried about requesting a reduction in hours. But when this opportunity came up, that was great. Unfortunately, 2 other people we had to say goodbye to, but we did it in a really great way, and we made sure that as they exited the business, we were already proactively working with other people in our community so that we could secure them into new roles. So whenever we're doing these things, if we can help people who exit, we do talk about an elegant exit. They are still our raving fans, and they still connect with us and talk about, how well that process was handled. But as you can see, it's a really positive story. We've got business growth. It's happening all the time, but we've implemented new technology, and that meant that we needed to make a change. When we went through the process, we didn't start with just, making redundancies. We went through a really structured process where we consulted, and we found as many win-win situations as we possibly could. From that point, we moved to the next stage, which was finalization of 2 people's employment with us, but we transitioned them out really smoothly. So that's one example of right-sizing. But as I said right at the very beginning, right-sizing can also be phenomenal positive growth. And I want to tell you about another company that I've been working with for approximately 10 years now. They're a local Northern Beaches pharmaceutical company. And when I started working with them, we had 2 founders, and I helped them employ their first intern straight out of the New South Wales University. University of Sydney. It was somebody who joined us from Sydney University. And that employee, 10 years later, still with them, still thriving, promoted through the business. But over that 10-year period, we have grown the business gradually and in a really sustainable way. We now have about 34 people in there. They have gone from producing one core product to having a panel of products that they produce. And we now not only produce ingredients for other people in the pharmaceutical industry, but we also have our own products that are marketed directly to the masses. And we also sell into a number of well-known organisations across Australia and now globally. So as we've gone through that process, we've had to make really important decisions about when do we hire certain roles and how many people do we need in certain roles. And one of the most important things was when we made the decision to hire a salesperson in Australia. The intention was that we hired that salesperson and we gave them a target. Now, if we hire that salesperson and don't give them a target, well, they don't know what to do and where to focus. When we break it down and make it really structured for them and say, this is what we want you to achieve, that's great. But the other side of that is it made it really easy for us to understand, well, we're going to need another person in R&D, so research and development. What new products are they going to be selling? We also knew that we were going to need new people in quality. In pharmaceutical world, we have to have quality assurance, and we also have to have quality control, because anything that we produce could be ingested by a human, and that means quality is second to none. You have to have everything nailed. So we needed to have more people coming in there. And we also needed to make sure that as we started to get those sales, we could actually deliver what we were promising. So that meant we also had to gradually increase our production team. And now we can't do all of that unless we actually have an understanding of what our timeframes are. So from the moment we start going out and positioning to clients, we were thinking it was going to take a certain period of time. around about 3 to 4 months before that pipeline would really start to increase. We hired a rock star, and it happened really quickly, and we got caught a little bit short. So we were still looking for people to come into our production team when the orders were starting to come in. And so that meant that our training time had to be compacted, or we had to work out senior people. So that meant we were now promoting people within this company to be senior and be responsible for training our newbies to make sure that that structure was all happening. So as you can see, right-sizing your business can also be about growth, sustainable, planned, reasonably. None of us have a magic ball. We can't predict exactly what's going to happen. But by doing that in that way, what we were able to do is say, okay, we were already on the path to hire somebody. We just needed to put in place a different level at the back end because we weren't quite at the right stage of development for our newer people. So we have to be agile, we have to be moving forward, but we can do things in a very planned, very practical way to help you be successful and not get caught short. So I hope those 2 case studies have provided some really interesting ideas for you about what success looks like and how you either grow from one or grow your business from now. So of course, I've started to talk a little bit about hiring options already. And I just want to say there are lots of different hiring options, lots of different ways to be successful on how you hire and what that looks like. I'm going to share some things, and I just want you to know, please take screenshots, do all of that right now. This stuff is the stuff that it's really hard to stay on top of, and there's lots of different combinations. So please feel free to do this. But before we jump into all of that goodness, I just want to know, how many hats are you wearing? Kate's got a great poll that she's going to pop up for us. And I just want you to think about how much load you are taking on right now. So when you are looking at all of those things that have popped up, for those people who are watching the replay, the things that I've suggested are, you're the founder and the vision holder. You might also be the chief financial officer doing your own bookkeeping. You might be the chief sales officer because you know the product best and are your best place to sell it. You might be the chief marketing officer doing your social media posts and setting up your Google AdWords. You might be your chief people officer, the only person in your business responsible for hiring and paying your team. You might be the chief analyst. As I said, there's lots of numbers and lots of facts we need to know so that we can make sure everything is working. Head of delivery, you're the one who's carrying the load and doing it, all of it. You might be the head of services. You might be the one who's actually making sure the customers are feeling the love. You might be the one dealing with all the customer complaints as well. Head of legal, head of debt collection, risk manager. I'm sure there are more underneath there as well. So you might be, forgive me as I just move my mouse, compliance, as I mentioned in pharmaceutical, lots of compliance there, but also in bookkeeping and in real estate and so many other businesses. Lost count. Are there even more that I haven't mentioned? And you might just say all of the above and then some. So
And
please.
this one, people can choose as many as they like, and I can see people are going to town because it's so reflective of what it's like when you have your own business. You have to do everything. All right, I'm going to give you 3 more seconds and then I'm going to end the poll and share. All right, let's have a look. I'll share the results on screen now.
Okay. So what we can see is that a lot of us must be wearing multiple hats because, yeah, 88% are saying we are the founder and the vision holder. We're also the chief financial officer. 44% have said that they're the chief sales officer. Chief marketing officer is 69%. Chief people officer, about 50% of you. Chief analyst, 56%, head of delivery, 50%, head of sales, 63%. So, there are lots of people wearing lots and lots of hats. And what I can say to you is that when you are wearing all those hats, there's a lot of work on your plate. And it's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because unfortunately for small business owners, around about 34% of small business owners currently, according to information from the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Innovation, are suffering from a mental health issue. And that really concerns me. And so if that is you, please know that there are free support available for you and that you are not alone. 34%, that's a third of us who are finding it hard at some point in their business. So if you need help, Black Dog and also Beyond Blue both have government funded support to help you through. So hopefully we'll be able to share those details in the chat as well. But
Yes.
reach out to those organisations if you need support.
And Therese, there's even a comment in the chat saying it's hard to know what the biggest priority is or the next important decision to make. And Maria, you are totally not alone there. Such a
Absolutely.
normal feeling.
Yeah. And as you can see here, I talk about as this is de-hatting. We all used to proudly say, I'm proudly wearing multiple hats in my business. I want you to be able to choose the hats that suit you best. Some of those hat looks great on this woman, and I'm sure some of them will not look quite as good. Choose the ones that suit you and really know that it's okay to let some things go as long as we're doing it in a way that's sustainable for your business.
And if during this you've popped up with some questions, we've got about 5 more minutes of Therese's presentation, and then we will be doing our Q&A. So if you've got questions like Maria's, like how do you focus on the next priority, pop that in the Q&A box and we'll be happy to answer those starting in about 5 minutes for that Q&A.
So I love this quote. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. And here we have, my simple way of looking at it, your plan. Which bits are you going to delete? They're just not that important. Which bits are you going to delegate? Which bits do you defer and which bits do you get done now? And the way I'd like you to look at that is use this. And if it's a repetitive on track, if it's a repetitive task and you can easily train somebody else to do it, it's the type of thing you should be looking at delegating. If it is something that you need to do more of, like sales or marketing to grow your business or understanding your business numbers, sometimes if it's understanding the business numbers, it might be actually jumping in and doing more with your accountant or with your bookkeeper. But I want you to actually track what you do when, and then have a look at it. And if it is a repetitive task and you can delegate it or get rid of it, delete it, automate it, do that. If it's something that's about the right percentage and it fills your cup with joy, I want you to color it purple. And if it's something you should be doing more of, I want you to highlight it and turn it green. So hopefully you've been able to take a snapshot of that, because that's going to help you make decisions about how you engage people. Because people often think my options are full-time and casual. That's not the case. Take a snapshot of this. If you have a lot of work, full-time is your go-to. 38 hours per week. And, we have all these other paid benefits that we need to be aware of. So it's not just about whether you can handle the salary if they're working those hours. It's about the 20 days of annual leave, and it's about all of the other things. And it's knowing how much time it's going to take you to train them up and get them ready. But this is a really good option if you've got lots of work on. Part-time is a really great option if you have consistent work and there's a pattern to that work, but you don't need 38 hours. Part-time can start from really small amounts. So it can actually even be 3 hours, depending on the award that somebody's covered by, it can be as little as 3 hours a week. But then you don't have to pay 38 hours of annual leave. You're only paying 3 hours of annual leave. So 3 hours times 4 weeks, that's 12 hours of annual leave over the course of a year. So just knowing how that works for you is really important. Once again, take a photo. Casual. There's no guarantee of hours. The way we write our casual employment agreement says at the end of each shift, our relationship actually terminates, and then we re-engage you for the next shift. The really great thing about this is, for some businesses, we can have peak seasons and then it's not busy again. When you have casuals in your workforce, it can actually allow you to scale and grow because they might want to do more hours or less hours. And that allows you to beef up when it's really busy or contract down without having to go through heartbreaking redundancies or anything like that. Remember that you actually have to pay them a loading for casuals. So understanding which award they're covered by and making sure you get those rates right is really, really important. But we also have contractors, like I did when I was first running my business. I needed somebody really senior. I needed somebody I could really trust, but I couldn't guarantee how much work. When I got overflow, I handed it off to my contractor. She nailed it. We both looked amazing and everyone benefited. My clients were happy. I was happy. She was happy. Everything good. What you need to remember now is that there's a maximum duration of 2 years. And you can only extend a contract twice if they are contracted directly hired by you. This is not when you're working, for example, with your outsourced accountant or an outsourced marketer because they run their own business. And so those contracts, they're ongoing because it's business to business contractor, not a contractor who's directly engaged in your business, providing you with direct service.
This one was news for me, Therese.
The contractor information?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
maximum of 2 years. I think that's a really good differentiation you make, or whether you're doing business to business or it's a business to an individual.
It's really important,
Mm,
and it's something that is relatively new legislation,
mm,
but the fines if you don't get it right can be quite high. So
yeah,
please
great
check.
information. Thank you.
And then, of course, as I mentioned, sometimes you can engage in interns. Now, when you're thinking about interns, you need to make sure that you're doing it in exactly the right way. They're generally recent university graduates, or they're currently studying and they have to get their hours up doing an actual project. Make sure you understand this. This is not an excuse not to pay somebody. It's just a different way of engaging them. So if you've got questions, talk to an expert, talk to their university, get the right advice, and then you can definitely work with interns. These are not the only ways, but they are the ways to engage within Australia. Remember the fact that you can also have employee of records, or you can work with your international organizations, or you can look at what you can do with automation and AI. So all great options for scaling without adding to your team. So, all right. And now, because I know we don't have very much time left, but I do want this piece to be really valuable for you. This is about great conversations, not difficult ones, because all of them can be great. So, poll, how do you feel when you are considering having a difficult conversation? Choose all that apply. So on the screen for our people who are watching the post the recording, I've said it's a form of torture. I actually feel physically sick, sense of dread and want to run away, avoid at all costs, overwhelmed by anxiety. It will always end up being my fault. I can get through them, but I feel so uncomfortable. All of the above, and then other. Every now and again, I get somebody who tells me they love it. So share your thoughts.
All right, 3 more seconds. Quick, get those votes in. Oh, I can see them all rushing in. All right, and I'm ending the poll now. Let's have a look.
All right. Nobody has said it's a form of torture. Thank goodness for that. Everyone has their fingernails intact. Feel physically sick, about 9% have said that. Sense of dread, 5%. Overwhelmed by anxiety, about 9%. 36% of you have said, I can get through it, but I feel so uncomfortable. 27% have said that it's all of the above. And 14% have said other. I'm hoping that the others are those people who are actually saying, I love them, Therese, and they're not difficult at all. But if you are not in that group, let me just bring you into what is going on behind the scenes. That tiny little orange dot in that screen, that is the amygdala. And it is the part of your brain that we often refer to as the reptilian section of your brain. It is the part that is responsible for fight, flight, or freeze responses. And it is small but super powerful. So what I want you to know is that you actually have the entire rest of that brain to override what that little tiny bit is telling you. You will get through this. It will be okay. And I need you to know that it's natural for you to feel really yuck about this. But unless you have these conversations, you're going to get stuck and your business is not going to go anywhere. So please think about conversation as a gift. We give conversations to people we care about because that's who we give our gifts to. When you are planning a conversation, we actually think about it, just like we do when we're buying a gift or we're making a gift for somebody we care about. We think about how we present it. As you can see in this image, we wrap it up beautifully and we put a bow on it. And I want you to think about how you message your conversations. Think about the why. What's in it for your team? What's in it for the person you need to communicate something to? And I also want you to think really deeply about how you unpack that. It can be done in layers. And the other thing that I really would love you to think about is that we give gifts regularly. It could be a gift of time. It could be a gift of caring. It could be a gift of different things. But each one of those is a short conversation with real meaning and real impact behind it. And if you can just change that mindset from it's a difficult conversation to it's a really powerful, important gift that I'm giving your team member, hopefully that little red dot that you saw on that screen, it's not going to feel quite so powerful because you've got this structure behind you to move forward. So, wrapping up, right-sizing your business is really important, and it's focused on the numbers and the plan for your business and what you want to achieve. It's really natural, it's really normal, and I want you to understand that right-sizing your business is not a straight line. It goes like this. And we just need to adapt. And you can work with your experts around you to help you adapt in the right way at the right time. I want you to think about how you plan for those difficult conversations and turn each one of them into a beautiful gift, because it's all about your mindset. All of these things help you to have the most amazing business you possibly can. Because what I really want for each of you is that you get to have your dream business through your dream team if you choose to grow from a solo. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Therese. Yes, we've got 4 questions that have come through, and there might be a couple other as we go. So we've got about a couple minutes per question. And I've also popped in the chat, if you can just go to the next slide there for me while we've got any other questions coming through. 2 things I quickly want to share that next week conversation is going to be how to turn your website into a sales machine, same time, same place. So register for that one, because basically we don't own anything on social media. As we've seen, TikTok can just disappear. So you want to own the stuff that's on your website. That's why it's so important. And we've also, on the next slide and also in the chat, we put a link for your feedback, because these sessions are for you. So we'd love to know if there's anything else that you'd like in these sessions or anything different. And love to hear your suggestions, because sometimes they get lost in the chat. So this is the perfect spot to take them. It takes about 2 minutes. All right.
Take us back to the other one first. So
Yes.
this one, just so they can register, and then I'll swap to the next one when I'm answering
Well,
questions.
I've actually popped it in the chat, so we're all sorted, Therese.
Oh, lovely.
So we might stop sharing those slides so people can see your lovely face, because we've got, we've now got 7 questions. So we've got about a minute or 2 each. Let's get going. There is a question about, can you have a contractor who is ongoing, like a consultant or outsourced help?
So, as I said, a contractor is limited to 2 years if you are in a direct relationship with them. So, if they run their own business and they have heaps of other clients and you are not their source of income, the only source of income, then yes, you can. But if they rely on you for their income, no, maximum of 2 years.
Is this sham contracting, or is that something completely different?
It's sometimes referred to as sham contracting, but
Okay.
it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And I don't like that language because lots of people don't realize that the
No, it's not
legislation has
intentional, is
changed.
it?
And, it happens incrementally. And you know what it's like when you're running a small business and you can't remember people's start dates. And
Mm.
suddenly, oh my God, you've been with me for 3 years. Oops. So,
Yes.
yeah, just be really careful and looking at that. But
So
no,
there is, yeah, another question similar to this one, asking you to elaborate more, explain again what you mean by regarding contractors, business to business, not business to individuals. Yeah.
so a great example is when you're working with somebody like a marketing contractor, and they might have, 20 or 30 or 60 clients, and you only make up a small amount of their revenue. So they are a contractor who is running their own business, and therefore you can have an ongoing relationship with them. But if you hire somebody who is a contractor and you are the only income that they receive, or you make up 80% of their income and you tell them how to do the work and you provide them with a laptop and you do all the rest of
They're
it.
basically an employee, but they happen
Yeah,
to say, I'm getting paid under a business name, but they're employee. That's where you need to look
right.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Back to
great.
you. If you've got questions about that, just go back and have a look
Hmm.
what you've got going on for them.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Question here from Darren. With hiring outsourced staff, part-time or full-time on a long-term basis, are we responsible for paying superannuation as employers? With hiring
Well,
outsourced staff, part-time
once
or full-time?
again,
Mm.
it can depend on the unique circumstances there. So if you are talking about that situation where we've got a marketing expert who is hired by you, but they run their own business, they are absolutely responsible for their own superannuation. The tricky bit is that we have contractors deemed employees. Those are the ones that I'm talking about when I'm saying you can't have them for more than 2 years. If you have a contractor deemed an employee, you are responsible for their superannuation. Even if you write it into their contract, you may still end up getting a great big please pay me letter
Mm.
years later. I've had one client, unfortunately, who had somebody in that situation. And, it was about 7 years later, we were coming up to the end of our record keeping period on them. And we suddenly got a letter from their accountant saying, you owe this person significant amounts of super.
Hmm.
Now, the employer came to me and said, what the hell? I don't understand. How could this happen? And that's when we dug in and we realized that they should have always been paying super because they were a contractor deemed an employee.
Yeah.
And it was
And I
before
think,
the legislation changed. So there was no,
yes. And the thing is, with employment law, legislation's always changing. And as the founder on all those hats, you don't have to know everything. But do know enough that when you should ask questions and get someone like Therese to help you to figure this out. You don't have to have all the answers. Just know when to go, let me get an expert to answer that one for me. All right. I've got a question here from Andrea. How can I keep part-time employment semi-flexible as I need to change my team's hours annually depending on demand?
absolutely. I do this all the time with my team. I'm blessed with a team of mums. And for me, it's not about my demand, it's actually about their school kids' after school activities, which change on a regular basis every term. You can enter into something called an individual flexibility agreement. Now, that needs to be mutually agreed and it needs to be something that is clearly documented. There's a very specific way of doing it, and under no circumstances can it offer them less than they would get under the award. So, there's a number of things that we need to look at, but you can absolutely do that. Check out individual flexibility agreements for your team members and make sure that you're across the award that they're covered by so that you can reference the right award in that agreement. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of direction to head off and find the way.
Just going back to our last question from Darren, there was a bit more information, which was when hiring outsourced staff part-time or full-time on a long-term basis, are we responsible for paying superannuation as employees? As employers, the clarification is referring to overseas outsourced staff.
So if they're, for example, located in the Philippines or in India or somewhere like that, you're actually responsible for meeting the obligations in their country.
The local.
So you need to understand the local terms and conditions. So things to watch out for in the Philippines, they get paid 13 months of the year.
Same with Malaysia, I've learned.
Same with Malaysia.
Yeah.
In different countries, they have different a number of public holidays. So if
Hmm.
they are working our public holidays, you need to actually pay them an extra 30%, depending which country they're in, if they work our public holidays rather than their public holidays.
Mm.
So you do need to make sure that you are looking at what it actually is over there, but they will be paying into their own equivalent of superannuation. You don't need to pay them superannuation here in Australia.
And I suppose that depends on if you are employing them directly or if you're going through a consulting outsourcing agency where they should be advising you on this.
Absolutely. But once again, do your
It's not,
research, check,
yes.
get the right support, because I have seen a couple of things where, people are getting charged superannuation on top,
Mm,
but they shouldn't be. So
yes.
we've had to go back and negotiate for a couple of clients just to say, not quite right here.
Okay. All right. So we've got two more questions in 4 minutes. So let's see how we go. A question from Andrea. We're struggling to find more qualified staff/teachers for a not-for-profit school so that they can expand. Have you got any tips?
So, when you are looking at hiring, what I would always say is go where they hang out.
Mm,
There are lots of great educational magazines and things that are targeted at teachers. Digital online locations where you know that they're going to be doing their research. So depending on what the teaching role actually is, you will be able to potentially find locations there. The other thing that I'm going to say to you is make sure that you're tapping into the resources within your own teacher group. We regularly look at referral rewards. So if my teachers know a teacher that they would love to have as part of the team, if they introduce them and they're successful in passing their probationary period, they get a bonus. And then what happens is we tend to attract like. None of us want to work with somebody who doesn't carry their own weight. So our great people add great value, and
mm.
we grow our network that way. The other thing to think about is the Teachers Association and whether they have a newsletter that goes out. Some of those associations will actually let you advertise in there for your roles. So, see, there's a couple of different ways to have a look at that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I think that's such great advice for everybody and everywhere looking for extra staff, not just in education. Go where they hang out, talk to the people that already do what they do, referrals, great suggestions.
Yeah.
Um,
And don't forget that LinkedIn for teachers is really powerful.
oh,
So, you can actually have great ads on LinkedIn. But sometimes even better is a really short video on your own LinkedIn and just
mm,
ask people to share it with anyone they know.
mhm.
Why should they join you? How wonderful it is to work at your school, and then share it with your connections.
Wonderful suggestions. There is a further question about our contractor conversation. So obviously this has sparked a bit of
Yeah.
discussion. We may have already answered it, but I do want to read it out just so um, we have answered our questions that have been submitted. So it's about further to the questions above. The person gives me a quote and then they invoice me afterwards. Should they be called my consultant or outsourced help, not a contractor? Is there a time limit on this engagement?
Yes. So once again, it depends on um, how much they rely on you for their own revenue. So if you are one of many clients, and if you were to suddenly no longer provide them with work, that it would not impact their business, then it is less likely that they are a contractor, more likely that they are outsourced support. They are running their own unique business, and you are just one of many, many clients. So if you think about my business, we support about 200 people, 200 different businesses. No one of those is big enough that I'm considered a contractor to an individual client. Maybe that helps you to kind of think about it. Does this person rely on you for their revenue? If they do, they're probably going to be a contractor, not outsourced support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Therese. We've just hit 1 o'clock, which means we're at the end of our time today. I've just popped on the chat again our codes for our session next week, Turn Your Website into a Sales Machine. And also, we would love your feedback. Just takes 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Therese, for sharing all your knowledge and wisdom and stories from Impact HR. I can see from the chat and the questions, it's been really beneficial for everybody. Just a reminder that this session is being recorded and tomorrow will be uploaded to the website so you can watch it back. There is a question about a transcript. I did turn that on towards the end, so you may be able to download part of it, but it's not standard that it comes with the webinar, but I'll see what I can do when we upload it. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Therese. And we will see you all next week for Turn Your Website into a Sales Machine. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.